I don't think of work-life balance as a balance because it's not static, it's dynamic. You have to be flexible. But at the same time, you have to remember that you are not just your work or your leadership role or whatever else that you're doing. And you're not just all about your hobbies and your family. It's a pursuit of balance. If I ever ask myself, why am I doing this? Instead of just relaxing, why am I sitting here writing this email? I should stop doing it because then I don't have a purpose behind doing it. So even if I'm doing something difficult at work, if I have a sense of purpose that I'm doing this to create this positive influence or positive impact and it's working, that sense of purpose drives me. Allows me to do hard things. Only take on a leadership role if it truly resonates with you. Don't chase a leadership role just because you think it's great or it will give you visibility. It has to align with what you believe. Don't do anything that will keep you awake at night, wondering if you did the right thing. Care about what you're doing, but don't get overly attached. Don't try to hold on to it. Things come and things go, and you have to, go with the flow.
Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast with me, Kene Igweonu. Thank you for joining me. Leadership is often discussed in terms of how we lead others, but the most demanding leadership work happens earlier and much more quietly in how we lead ourselves, our values, our decisions, and our responses under pressure. This podcast explores self-leadership as a learnable, reflective discipline, not performance or position, but the inner work that sustains wise and courageous leadership over time. Each episode asks, how do your values shape your leadership when no one else is watching? If you are serious about leading well, it begins with leading yourself. My guest in this episode is Atul Shinagare, who joins me from Boston. Atul is Director of Integrated Cancer Imaging at Brigham and Women's Hospital and also Associate Professor of Radiology at Harvard Medical School. What matters here, though, is not just the title, but what Atul's leadership journey reveals about leading oneself when responsibility is real and stakes are high. Atul, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining me. Please, could you say a little bit more about your organization and your role within that?
Kene, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure and honor to be here and talk to you. So I belong in a hospital called Brigham and Women's Hospital, which right now is undergoing very complex change. We were very closely associated with a cancer institute, Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, which is separating from us. And at the same time, we are merging with another big hospital called Mass General Hospital to create an entity called Mass General Brigham, who are coming up with their own cancer center. So my role and expertise is focused on cancer imaging. And so in this role for Mass General Brigham, on one hand, I will oversee sort of the separation of the cancer imaging services from the other cancer institute, Dana-Farber, and then creating and expanding the cancer services for the Mass General Brigham. So it's a bit of an evolving role. And to an extent, I'll have to build this plane as we fly because it hasn't been done before. And so it's going to be a new experience and new opportunities to learn for everyone.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So let's dive straight into it. What does self-leadership mean to you in practice as a senior executive leader?
So when I think about leadership, I'm thinking an opportunity to make something better, to create a positive impact. And when I apply to myself, that means to create a better version of myself, to be the best of what I can do and I can be. And that will change over time. I was a different person 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. As a person, as a leader, we all are learning, evolving. And so this is a sort of process. It's a journey of making yourself better, acquiring new skills, to improve on whatever we are doing. That's how I see it.
That's amazing. And of course, when a leader gets better, everyone gets better. The organization gets better as well. Thank you for that. So can you describe a moment when your values, not just convenience, fear, or ambition, guided a difficult leadership decision?
Yeah, I'm a radiologist. And in radiology, the current problem is that we have a huge number of patients. Our number of scans that we do have expanded almost twofold or more in the last 3 to 4 years. So the growth has been very rapid. The number of radiologists has not changed, which means we have to do more work with same number of people. And that has put a lot of strain on our system. Everything from patient access to get the scan, because we need technologists which are limited in number, and then to interpret the scans, which requires radiologists, also limited in number. So that puts us in a little bit difficult situation because we expect people to do a little bit more work, and that's always hard to motivate people to do that. We also can't push people beyond a point where they become too stressed, inefficient, burnt out. So striking that balance has been the biggest challenge of our specialty. And sometimes getting people to agree on these principles, okay, we have to keep the patients at the forefront, is sometimes challenging because people have their own ideas, their own priorities. And some of these conversations can become really difficult. And we don't want to force anyone, but at the same time, we want to inspire people to do what is right. And in that moment, it helps to remember why are we here. We are here for our patients. And if that becomes our guiding principle, and if we make all the decisions that align with it, things become easy. And if we start telling people, okay, you know what, we would like you to pick up an extra shift, people will say, why would I do that? Even if you're willing to pay for it, people wouldn't do it. But once we convince people why it needs to be done, once they understand the rationale, where you're coming from, then they're much more open to that possibility. So these conversations can be tricky, but if we remember our basic guiding sort of our north, it helps.
And I'm just wondering in that circumstance, because this is something that's happening within higher education where I am as well, where, there's a lot of issues around workload pressures. Making that kind of decision and trying to motivate people to understand why they're there and that they're there for the patients. What do you learn about yourself in that moment, in context of how you have those conversations to win people over to actually doing the work that is important for your patients?
Yeah. So what I've learned is leadership is, first of all, it's not easy. It's not always even pleasant for that matter. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions. You have to have tough conversations. But it helps to remember why we are here. And then we have to do justice to the role that we are in. So I think if we take a step back, I wouldn't want to be in a role where I don't think I can do justice to it. If it doesn't align with my principles, if I cannot make things better than what they are, I shouldn't be doing it in the first place. Once I do start doing it, I want to give it my best. And that means I want to advocate for the role. That means our center is patients. At the same time, the other important constituency is the people who do the work. So throughout, I need to strike that balance of doing right for the patients, but also doing right for the people who do that work. And striking that balance is the key. And I find myself always in pursuit of that balance where I'm not being unfair to anyone, not putting one over the other, but finding the right compromise.
I'm going to push this one a little bit because I think there's something there you're saying that I'd really want to get to the root of, and that's the personal cost for anyone in leadership. You described the context when the number of processes and assessments that you have to do as a radiologist has increased. So you've got a lot more patients to attend to, but the staffing base hasn't changed. So the work pressure is going up. What is the personal cost as a leader who is saying to your people, we have to serve our patients, we have to try and balance our own personal needs, the company's needs, the patient needs? I'm wondering, what is there a personal cost to that for yourself, or how do you navigate that?
Yeah, that's an important point. I think the personal cost is this: always you're worried if you're doing enough, if you're doing the right thing. And I mean, it's not really worry, but it's like that constant awareness of, okay, I need to do better. I cannot be unfair to anyone. Sometimes, even if, let's say, there's a person whose personal agenda doesn't fit with the rest of the group, they want something special that the group cannot provide or whatnot. You can't make everybody happy all the time. And over time, I've realized that some of those conversations can be really tough. People can be upset at you. So what I've realized is I cannot make everybody happy all the time. But my goal is to make sure 90% of people are happy and they get satisfaction from what they're doing. And that 10%, those who are not happy with whatever decision the group makes, that cost, I have to bear that sort of burden of knowing that, okay, these people are not on board and somehow I have to convince them. Usually it's not about power or authority, it's about influence. That's when I say, okay, you know what, let's go out for coffee. And then we have a conversation. Tell me what you're thinking, why, what. And then you explain your side of the story and try to get them on board. That works for majority of people, but there are some who will still resist, who will do everything they can to not do what they don't want to do. And that knowing that you are the one who's making that tough choice takes a toll.
Yeah, and that's because you want to do good by your organization, you want to do good by your family and by yourself. And you said something there which is really important. Effectively, leadership is influence. Yeah, there's a place for hierarchy in leadership, but ultimately it's about influence. How do you influence those people who are not come on board yet to come on board?
So there is one other thing I would like to add when you mention personal cost. It's
Mm.
about cost of in your personal life. Because early on, when I started taking leadership roles, one of my instincts was to bring that work home. And that would take time away from my personal life, from my loved ones. And that is something I quickly understood was not the right way to do. So I had to find a new balance. So now I feel like I'm not paying that personal cost, but I do think that many people end up paying it. It could be your hobbies, it could be your family, it could be your sleep. And I think as a leader, you have to learn to take care of yourself because only then you can take care of others. It's not about putting yourself first, but it's not about burning yourself out.
Absolutely. And that's a really, really good point. We met at the Harvard Business School course called Managing Turbulence. And one of the books that we introduced to is a book called The Portfolio Life by Christina Wallace, which talks about the importance of a leader having all the different aspects to their life and tending to them. So that's really important that we tend to the different portfolios we have in life, whether it be family, friends, religion, spiritual, whatever relationships we have. And work shouldn't just be the only thing that we obsess and care about. So thank you. That's really good. Because a leader who is balanced will be able to bring that some of that balance into their work. Thank you. So how do you stop your leadership role and your titles becoming your identity, especially when expectations and responsibility are high?
It's a process. um, but yeah, that's the thing. I don't think of work life balance as a balance because it's not static, it's dynamic. There are times in your life when work may take over a little bit more than it should during certain periods of high growth or new roles or something else. Sometimes somebody's personal life may take up more when they have something happening in their life. So you have to be flexible. But at the same time, you have to remember that you are not just your work or your leadership role or whatever else that you're doing. And you're not just all about your hobbies and your family. You take up something at work, it's your responsibility. You have to give something. So again, I'll go back to that word I used before, balance. It's a pursuit of balance because it's never perfect, but you have to do the best you can to strike balance between different parties at work. When you're getting this group to work well with the other group, you have to strike a balance. You have to strike a balance between your organization and individuals because their agendas may be slightly different. Or you have to strike a balance between your personal life and professional life. It's basically you have to keep trying. And that's also part of making yourself better over time.
Yeah. You spoke briefly about habits. So my next question is about habits, really. So as a leader, are there some regular practice or habits that helps you to stay grounded as a leader?
Uh, for me, I think the two that are most important for me personally is first is sense of purpose. Why am I doing this? So over time, what I've started doing is evening time is for family, for my son. I don't want to compromise that. But once, like after dinner, I try to work for a couple hours to wrap up some things. And If I ever ask myself, why am I doing this? Instead of just relaxing, why am I sitting here writing this email? I should stop doing it because then I don't have a purpose behind doing it. So even if I'm doing something difficult at work, if I have a sense of purpose that yes, I'm doing this to create this positive influence or positive impact and it's working, that sense of purpose drives me. Allows me to do hard things. And second is gratitude. Gratitude for what we have, and we are fortunate to have whatever the role, the resources, the place that we have, society around us. The sense of gratitude goes a long way in keeping my own sense of well-being. And then other habits are just basically connections, movement, trying to be as healthy as you can be in your own way. Just because somebody tells me to go to gym doesn't mean I will go to gym. It has to work for me. And every now and then I try to kind of reward myself. Like, okay, you know what? Today I'm going to do this that just for myself. So these little things help me grounded and help me stay happy.
As you were speaking, I was thinking about my own very early days in leadership. One of the things about that was my struggles to find a way to bring my values into work. Because for some weird reason, I thought that leadership was about looking at someone who is ahead of me, and there are people that teach that and copying their leadership behaviors. And some of these people didn't come have the same values with myself. Would you say that there are things that you can, when you see somebody whose values are aligned obviously with yours, how do you learn from that person, especially when they are somebody that you come across quite regularly in your work? How do you have any experience of learning from someone's leadership who has aligned values, of course?
I mean, I believe you can learn something from everyone. And sometimes those things are positive that this is something I want to do. And sometimes it can be this is something I don't want to do. Eventually, that's also a learning point because you interact with multiple people. I've had mentors and leaders that I've looked up to, and some things I realize, hey, this is something I wish I could do, and how can I do it? And then sometimes I realize I would never do this. It's just not me, and I'm not going to do it. So I think you can learn both ways and evolve and sort of incorporate what aligns, like what resonates with you in your own style.
That's really important, Tatu. So, what we learn is equally as important as what we say. You know what? I'm not going to be like this. I'm not going to do that. So, thank you for that. So, we've kind of come to the end of this podcast, but I've got just one last question I want to ask you. This podcast is about helping people to grow in their leadership. So, for someone who is listening to you right now, reflecting on what it means to lead well with integrity, with impact and values, what would you want them to nurture and hold on to?
First, I would say only take on a leadership role if it truly resonates with you. Don't chase a leadership role just because you think it's great or it will give you visibility. It has to align with what you believe. Second, once you take on the role, you have to follow your moral compass. Don't do anything that will keep you awake at night, wondering if you did the right thing. And try to keep things as balanced as you can. That's key. And then care about what you're doing, but don't get overly attached. Don't try to hold on to it. Things come and things go, and you have to, you know, go with the flow.
Thank you so much. I think that's a huge advice. That's a really good one. And I'm sure for those people who are listening, you've heard that, and that's absolutely important. So, Atu, can I say a huge thank you to you? Thank you so much for making time to come on this podcast, to share your experience and to share your wisdom with people who are watching this. For those listening, what I take from this conversation is a reminder that leadership is about balance. And that balance enables you to achieve the things you want to do. It enables you to be all the other things you want to be, other than the leadership role that you've taken up. So it's really about making sure so that whatever you're doing in leadership, the decisions you make aligns very much with your values so that it doesn't keep you up awake at night because you've done something that you know doesn't align with you. Arturo, once again, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I really appreciate you especially taking time to join me on this conversation.
Thank you, Kene. This was great.
Leading yourself is not automatic. It is intentional and it gets better with practice. So choose alignment over drift. Choose disciplined growth over easy comfort. When you strengthen the leader, you strengthen the culture, and stronger cultures deliver better and more impactful outcomes. If this episode has been valuable, please share it with someone who cares about leading well and consider leaving a review or a comment. Until next time, lead yourself well and lead well. Goodbye.